Hey everyone, this is Cliff with Hamilton Transportation. Today we're hauling a Hitachi ZX135, just a baby excavator. Hey everyone, this is Cliff with Hamilton Transportation. I'm currently at the Pilot, and I think it's Port Wentworth, Georgia. We are headed over to the Keene Yard in Savannah. Headed over there to pick up a little Hitachi ZX135 excavator this morning. I have an 8 o'clock appointment, so it's currently 7:41. We'll see how much they complain if I get there 15 minutes early. You know, it can never just be simple. So the broker we got this from, they sent us a rate confirmation, a little Hitachi inspection sheet that you have to fill out when you pick up a Hitachi at Keene, and a pick list that shows the serial number and everything. So I got to the gate and checked in and showed them and asked what they needed. Said I have a serial number, and they said no, we need a QR code. Well, the QR code is what they send you when you make the appointment on their online appointment system. But the broker never sent us that. We asked about it, and they never sent it to us. So now we're waiting for them to send that to us. I don't know why we can't just do this right off the bat. But as soon as I get that, I will be able to go get checked in. This is a Keene facility, and they do not want any filming. So I can't film anything on here, but when I get done, I will pull out on the side here and we'll do a little walk around of the machine, and then we will hit the road and head north. Goal today is to get up to Ruther Glenn, Virginia. There is a Comfort Inn up there that I stay at. So I just think it's funny. They just sent the email, and it says right in the email, please ensure the driver has this. So anyway, okay, yeah, we're good. Anyway, we're going to try to get up to the Comfort Inn and Ruther Glenn, because this one is a wide load and you are restricted with wide loads inside the DC loop, which I will have to go around to get to Jessup, Maryland. So that's as far as we'll get today. It's about 500 miles. So let's go get this picked up and then hit the road. So we got this thing loaded up down there at the Keene Yard. That guy's APU is loud next to me. Got this loaded up down at the Keene Yard. So one thing I don't like about this, you see how the boom is sticking up like that? Now the guy that loaded it said that that's as far as that thing will come up, but I really doubt that. So I think I am going to jump in there and see if it will come up more, because usually you don't load them like that. Usually they're too tall like that. This one's a little one, so it's probably okay, but usually you will fold that all the way up in, and then that knuckle will sit on a block or something to keep it from hitting the cross member. But he was claiming that that is as far as that will curl up in there. So let's figure it out if he's right about that. So yes, that is as far as that will curl in, which is odd. I've never hauled one like that before, where the boom has to stick up like that. But it's small enough that it's not high, so I guess it's all right. So anyway, this is what we got. It is a Hitachi ZX135. This thing's only like 33 or 34,000 pounds. So we're not even heavy on this. We're just a tiny bit wide. You can see looking forward, that blade sticks out just a little bit on each side. We're at about 8 feet 10 inches. So technically it needs permit. So we are pulling permits for it. The only place it might slow us down some is in the morning, because we're not allowed inside the Beltway loop around DC before 9 o'clock. So if Virginia will give us continuous movement, we could get up early and head around the loop before 7. We just have to get out of Virginia. So if we could do that before 7, then it would be no problem. We can just sit in Maryland for a little bit and wait until the place opens so we can deliver. But anyway, we need to get some miles done today, so let's hit it. Let's hit the road.
You? Oh, no, you first. I couldn't think of it.
Hey guys, as I'm tooling along here on 95, just made it into North Carolina on our way up to Ruther Glenn for the night, and then Jessup, Maryland in the morning. Thought I would take a couple minutes to just talk about axles and axle weights, because in heavy haul it's a pretty important thing. You always have to be considering it. So anybody who's not a trucker, just a normal truck you see, like a truck pulling a dry van, like a Walmart truck or a Swift truck or whatever, they have 5 axles. So steer axle and a tandem set of axles for the drive axles on the truck, and then a tandem set of axles for the trailer. So you're allowed a certain amount of weight on each of those axles, and that's determined based on federal bridge law. So that's pretty much all over the country on highways. You're allowed up to 80,000 pounds gross weight on 5 axles legally, no permit required. So, and usually how that's broken down is either, I know some of the newer trucks, because they're a little heavier on the engine because of all the components, have 13,000 pound axles. Most trucks have 12,000 pound steer axles, meaning the maximum weight that can be carried on that axle is 12,000 pounds. And then a tandem axle, like a normal truck drive tires or a normal trailer, a tandem on a trailer, you're allowed 34,000 pounds. So 12,000 plus 34,000 plus 34,000 equals 80,000. So that's for just your normal everyday truck. Now, when it starts getting complicated is there's axle spacing. So you can be legal without a permit and have like a flatbed trailer that has its axles spread. Call it a spread axle flatbed. So if you have a spread axle flatbed, because there's 10 feet in between those 2 axles on the trailer, you're allowed to have 20,000 pounds on each of those axles. So now you can load your trailer such that you have, a little more weight on the back of your trailer and still be legal. And that comes into play with flatbeds, because a lot of times you'll be hauling stuff that you can't get exactly centered to get that perfect split of 12, 34, 34. You may have, 12, 32, and you need 36 on the trailer, or 12, 30, 38. And that spread axle allows you to do that, and you're still legal. You can also have, if you see trailers that have a lift axle, meaning that it's an axle that can be lifted up off the ground when it's not used, you can legally have up to 42,000 pounds on a tridem, meaning 3 axles in a group. So, like the load I'm hauling now, this excavator, I have probably not quite 13,000 on my steer axle, and then my drive axles are probably around 30, not very heavy, and then on my tridem, I probably have, so let's see, 13 and 30 would be 43, probably 37,000 pounds on my tridem, because I'm right around 80,000, a little bit under. But you're allowed up to 42,000 pounds legally on a tridem. So those are all legal weights. Now, when you're hauling bigger equipment, called a non-divisible load. So a normal load, like a trailer full of cases of water, or a flatbed with lumber on it, packs of lumber, you're not allowed to be heavy on those, because that load can be made smaller by taking a pack of lumber away, or taking a couple pallets of water out of the trailer. Then you can make it legal. If you're hauling a 65,000 pound bulldozer,
You can't take pieces off of the bulldozer. I mean, you could, but it's not practical to take pieces off of that bulldozer to make it lighter. So, if you're hauling something that cannot be divided into smaller loads, then you are allowed to apply for a permit so that you can haul that load. And in that case, states, and each state is different, but states will give you more weight on your axles than what is based on federal bridge law. So then it goes from a federal law to a state law. So when you go from, say, Pennsylvania through New York to Connecticut, the weights that each of those states give you can be vastly different. As an example, Pennsylvania will give you 52,000 pounds on a tandem, as long as your axles and as long as your suspension and your tires are rated for 52,000 pounds, they will give you 52,000 pounds. If you go to Connecticut, they will only give you 40,000 pounds on a tandem. I'll go with Pennsylvania because that's what I know best. It's my home state. So Pennsylvania will give you 23,000 pounds on a single axle. Most states, I don't think there's a state that gives you less than 20,000 pounds on a single axle. So when you see trucks with big wide tires on their steering axle, that's because they're allowed to put 20,000 pounds on that axle. Sometimes it's hard to get all that weight up to the front of the truck because you have to slide the fifth wheel forward so that the point where your trailer attaches to your fifth wheel has to have enough weight on it to put weight under your steer axle, and it has to be far enough towards the front of the truck to get it loaded up there. I have a 14,300 pound axle on my truck, and when I have my drive axles pretty much maxed out at 46,000, I have to have my fifth wheel 17 inches forward of the center of my two drive axles to get 14,000 pounds onto my steer axle. Now, as the weight of your load goes up, it's going to increase the amount of weight pushing down on your fifth wheel, which will put more on your steer axle. So, Pennsylvania gives you 23,000 on steer axle. On a tandem, they'll give you 52,000 pounds. On a tridem, they will give you 63,000 pounds. And on a quad, 4 axles, they will give you 72,000 pounds. So on my setup, I have a 14,300 pound steer axle, and the tires are rated for that. So I can put 14,300 on the steer. I can put 46,000 pounds on my tandem for my drives, and I can put 60,000 pounds on my trailer axles, my tridem. So that means I have a total of 120,300 pounds that I can max out, max gross. So that leaves me able to haul about 74,000 pounds in Pennsylvania. So you can apply for your permit for that. And I know states are funny, because if you go to West Virginia, they will tell you that the max allowed on a tridem is 50,000. But if you're staying on the interstate and you apply for a permit for 52,000 on your tridem, they'll give it to you. So I don't know why they have the regulation if they're just going to break it as soon as somebody asks for it. But I'm glad they do, because it makes it easier to get through. I don't know if any other states will do that. West Virginia is pretty much the only state I have applied for a permit that is more than what they say they will give you, just because it's so low. It's like 50,000 pounds. So then axle spacing also comes into play. So I think the normal axle spacing on like your run-of-the-mill Walmart truck, I think is 48 inches. My truck has 52-inch spaced axles, which allows me to go up to that 46,000 pounds. You can get them spaced further, and I think based on different states, they will give you a little more. But then spacing also depends on the space of your groups. So I know Maryland will give you, I was just looking at this last night, Maryland will give you 150,000 pounds if your axles, are rated for that. If you have 30 feet in between your drive axles and your trailer axles, but you have to have that 30 feet for them to give you that much weight. Usually, I think the separation has to be at least 10 feet to get the maximum rating on an axle group. So if you use, they're called Jeeps. If you use a 2-axle Jeep, so that means you'll have your truck, and then you have, it's a separate trailer with a 5th wheel on it that your trailer will connect to. And it has 2 axles on it. So if you have that, and there's 10 feet in between your drive axles and the 2 axles on the Jeep, then you will get, in Pennsylvania, you will get 46,000 on your drive axles, and you will get 46,000 on your Jeep axles. So you will have your, 14,000 pound steer, and then you have 92,000 pounds that you can put on those 2 tandem axle groupings, and then whatever trailer axles you have. If you see trucks with, they call them stingers or boosters, it's like an axle that's stuck onto the back of the trailer that's 10 feet behind it. That's why they do that, because with 10 feet, you can put another 20,000 pounds on that stinger or booster axle. And there are tons of configurations for trailers. You'll see, 3 drive axles and a drop axle or a lift axle for the truck, so a Tridem, and then a 3-axle Jeep, and then on the trailer you'll have 3 axles plus a 3-axle booster. I saw one of those yesterday. So that spacing, so you're putting 60,000 pounds on each one of those axle groupings. And like I said, every state's different, so there's no one configuration that's the best for everywhere. But the reason I got to thinking about this and thought I would explain it is because my next truck, I would like to go a little heavier, and I was looking at ways to do it. Obviously, you can get the most common setup is probably a 4-axle truck, so a steer axle, and then 3 axles, well, your drive axles and a lift axle. So you have 4 axles on the truck, and you would have, whatever your steer axle is, and then 60,000 pounds on that Tridem, and then 60,000 pounds on your trailer. And a lot of guys run a flip axle on the trailer. So that's a 4th axle, so you would have a closed 4 axle grouping. So it's 4 axles, but they're all tied together. And like I said earlier, Pennsylvania will give you 72,000 pounds on that quad. So I was looking at Jeeps last night because I have a 55-ton trailer, and I thought, for the next truck, it would be neat to be able to get close to that weight. So that's 110,000 pounds. So I was looking at ways to do that, and I started looking at, they're called Joe Dog Jeeps. So it's a Jeep that will go in between your trailer and your truck, but it gives you a closed quad on your truck. So you have your 2 drive axles, and then another 2 axles, that's the Jeep, close to those, so you have a 4-axle group on your truck. And then you have your trailer connected to the Jeep. And then if you get a flip axle on your trailer, you'll have a 4-axle group, closed quad on your trailer as well. So that would give me, 14,000 plus, well, it'd be 72 plus another 72. So that would be, 158,000 pounds. And if, my setup weighs, say it weighs 58,000 pounds, with my flip axle and my Jeep and everything, I don't think I would weigh quite that much. But that would give me 100,000 pounds that I could put on the trailer. So just something to think about for the next truck. I was sitting in the hotel room last night. I got there early, so I figured I would just kind of, daydream a little bit, go online and look at stuff. So hopefully that explains why you see trucks with all these different axles and different configurations. Just depends on what you're doing, and a lot of it's what you haul. I try to be as versatile as I can, but just this Monday I had to pull off the load because it was a long reach excavator and I didn't have a lift axle on the truck, so I wasn't set up to haul that. And I'm finding that I am pretty much capped out, even in states like Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio, where they'll give me the weight on my axles, but I'm pretty much capped out at around 72,000 pounds. And that puts me like 106, well, 72 would put me at 118. And I think I hauled those John Deere 300s, and I think one of those had me probably around 117,000. But that's about as much as I can do with the setup that I have now without adding some axles. So that's my spiel on axles and axle weights and spacing and all of that. If I forgot something or you have a question, just put it in the comments below, and I will try to answer it or find an answer for you. So I'm going to keep rolling north up 95 here, and hopefully it's not too late when we get into the hotel in Ruther Glenn tonight.
right, we made our goal of Ruther Glenn, Virginia tonight. We're at the Comfort Inn. So I'm a little over 100 miles from my delivery in the morning. Technically, I am not supposed to leave until sunrise because this is just a little bit oversized. But I need to get home tomorrow. So I think what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get up super early and just get out of Virginia. I took my my flags and my banners off, so I think I'm just gonna roll at like 5 in the morning, and that way I can get the heck out of here and get up into Maryland. And in Maryland, it doesn't really matter. You're allowed to move before, well, sunrise is not the problem here. There's a curfew around DC from 7 to 9. So my plan is to get up and hit the road well before traffic starts getting backed up, and get around DC and up into Maryland before 7. So if I can help it, before 6. And then I can get up, you know, I can fight traffic in Maryland and get up and get this delivered early, and then it's like another 100 miles home. So I should be able to get home in plenty of time for what I got going on tomorrow. But for tonight, I am here, and then I'll be up early. Oh, I gotta show you guys. So this little place, I like staying here because it's right before, well, it's a little bit before, probably 20 or 30 miles before the loop where the curfew starts, which is nice that there's a place with truck parking here. The only problem is that usually you get, you know, a few trucks in here, and tonight there were 2 back here, so getting in here was a little bit of a challenge. I had to come in and then loop around, so I lifted up my lift axle in the back. I could do that because this one's not that heavy, but that way it doesn't drag as much. It spins around much easier on 2 than it does on 3. So I got turned around and backed in here. It wasn't too bad. Surprisingly, with my short wheelbase truck and my long neck on here, which means I can really jack it around, this thing's surprisingly maneuverable in tight spaces. It'll spin around pretty quick. So I was able to get back in here, but I'm gonna go in, eat some dinner, and then up early in the morning, and we will hit it again and get this thing delivered. Alright guys, made it here to delivery, so now we just gotta get it unchained and off the trailer. All right, guys, that one is done. So that went very well this morning. Got here, got broken down and unloaded real quick, which works for me because now I can head home, and it's not quite 8 o'clock yet. So as always, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. Stay tuned. Next week I'm doing another big load. I'm taking a Cat 325 out to East Dundee, Illinois, so that'll be an interesting one, picking up from the port. But until then, this is Cliff Hambleton with Hambleton Transportation from Jessup, Maryland. I'll see you guys out there on the road.